Crime Curious is a true crime podcast that takes an in-depth look into real cases through the lens of a trained investigator and former prosecutor turned judge.
If you are sensitive to expletives, anatomical descriptions, and accurate descriptions of crime scenes, this podcast may not be suitable for you.
Have you or someone you love been a victim of a crime that's still unsolved? Crime Curious has teamed up with one of the top private investigation services in the Indiana and surrounding area. If you have listened to us long enough, you know that we do not seek out services or products that are meaningless to us or hold no real value. So you can trust us when we say that Corbett Investigations comes with decades of experience you won't find anyplace else. Corbett Investigations is run by a former homicide commander of one of the country's most successful homicide units, has put over 400 people in prison for homicide, handled over 1,100 death investigations, and solved 33 cold case murders. To be real with you, Mr. Corbett had a really difficult time telling us what we should highlight in this segment because he does not like to sound like he's bragging. Solving crimes has been his life's passion, and he has never done it for the accolades or recognition. He has a whole team behind his services that help him be so successful, as they specialize in things like blood stain analysis, ballistics, crime scene reconstruction, and forensic pathology, just to name a few. When you contact Corbett Investigations, you talk directly with Tim Corbett. He is hands-on with every case and can travel anywhere that's needed to get the job done. Corbett Investigations prides itself on honesty, truth, feet to the ground, real investigation work, and the strength to stand up to whatever is in the way of solving the crime. Corbett Investigations specializes in complex homicide cases, sex offenses, and criminal investigations that are old and new. Tim and his team have a reputation for finding witnesses and information that others could not. Although we hope none of our listeners ever need private investigation services, if you do, we recommend contacting Corbett Investigations and mention this segment on Crime Curious for a free consultation. Contact Tim Corbett today at 574-229-8115. You can also check them out on Facebook at Corbett Investigative Services, Inc., or their email, tim@tcorbett.org. That's tim@tcorbett.org. Thanks for listening, and now on to the show. Welcome to Crime Curious. I'm Charnell.
I'm Megan.
We're shaking all of our gray.
Got it.
All of it, our frogs, everything.
Stroking the frog.
Oh gosh, it's been a week. We are late on our recording because of our jobs in the week.
Jobs and things came up, and Charnell was patient with me and didn't replace me when I said, well, can't come again.
I would never replace you.
See you tomorrow.
Yes.
Well, I meant with like Brain Bath Jason or Detective West or something like that, but they're hard to tie down too.
It is, and we only do that when you're on vacation, you know?
Well, this wasn't vacation. This is just a week from hell.
It has been. And I'd like to tell you that I've got good news, but we're here to cover a true crime case, and it's horrible.
A different level of hell.
It is a different level of hell, and one that you don't have to oversee, so I do think that helps.
It does. It's always good when I'm not the leader of hell.
Yep. Only when you want to be.
That's right. I'll put my horns away and sit here angelically watching this case.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I want to thank listener Alicia for this suggestion, and it's actually been on the list for a while, but Megan, it's because it's one of those cases that takes a certain kind of energy and ability to detach just a bit from your soul in order to write the details down.
So work.
Yes, definitely like the everyday job.
Yes.
But sometimes you know what it's like when you're doing research, and sometimes you're like, I just can't go here right now.
Yes, I do.
This was this case for me, and it's a great case suggestion, and
it deserves to be told.
Yes, and we always promise we're going to get to them, but sometimes it's in our own time depending on where we're at energetically. So we're going to start with October 9th, 2020. Not long ago.
All right. This is a recent case.
It is. In New Boston, Texas, when Homer Hancock received a Facebook message around 9:30 a.m. from neighbors saying that the family dog had gotten out. So he immediately called his wife, 21-year-old Reagan, who was 34 weeks pregnant with their second child. The couple had a 3-year-old daughter together. He wanted to let her know, hey, neighbors are messaging me, dog got out. He tried her several times with no answer, and this was not like her at all. He had also received text messages from his wife earlier that morning that ended around 8:30 that honestly just didn't really sound like her. And knowing that she was pregnant and caring for their 3-year-old daughter, he made arrangements to leave work. But while he was en route, he called his mother-in-law, Jessica Brooks, because she was closer to their home than he was. He asked her to go and check on Reagan and just see what this is all about. She's not answering. These were weird messages, and now the dog is out.
Okay.
I know.
I don't like where it's going.
You don't. And you're going to hate it. You're going to hate it. At 10:15 a.m., Jessica and her husband arrived at the Hancock home only to discover one of the most gruesome crime scenes that the New Boston Police Department later said they had ever seen.
Okay.
And here it is. Trigger alert to gruesome crime scene description. Reagan was lying face down, not moving, and there was blood throughout the entire first floor of the house. Crime scene reconstruction analysts later determined that the crime took place in 5 different areas of the home. The couple's 3-year-old daughter was still in the home. She was alive.
They didn't
and
kill
uninjured.
her?
No, she was uninjured. A harrowing 911 call would reflect the pain and shock that Reagan's mother endured as she told the operator that someone had murdered her daughter, who was 34 weeks pregnant. She said, "Help me, my daughter's been murdered. There's blood everywhere. Oh, my babies, oh my God." She can also be heard on the 911 call asking her own husband about 3-year-old Kinley and commenting on the quantity of blood.
Because at this point, does she know that the 3-year-old's okay? Or is she just seeing all this blood?
She's seeing all this blood. She is not touching her daughter. She knows she's lying. Remember, Reagan is lying face down.
Yep.
And so she knows with the amount of blood, she's not moving. She knows she's gone. Okay. I don't know if she checked for a pulse. Very likely maybe she did, but she did not turn Reagan over.
Of course.
She knows this is a crime
normal.
scene.
It wouldn't be abnormal for her to go and, like you said, touch her, check for a pulse. I mean, I don't know. You never know. I might sit on the floor and grab my baby and try to pull her on my lap. I have no idea what I'd do in that situation.
Right.
I like to think, knowing what we do for our jobs, I would walk in, take pulse, freak the fuck out, cry, and not touch her to preserve the crime scene.
Honestly,
which is
that's what she did.
Yes,
this is what she did, and she was yelling at her husband to find Kinley, which they did. They do find her. Okay, she's on the first floor. She is well and safe. EMS was dispatched with the police to do what they could for the unborn baby. She did say in the 911 call that she was pregnant. Upon arrival, police and EMS gently turn Reagan over and discover that she had been cut hip to hip, with her uterus outside of her body, and baby Braxlyn Sage Hancock was missing, and so was the placenta that attached her to her mother's uterus.
Oh,
so
my
we
God.
have a womb raider case.
This baby was not killed. She
No.
wasn't like stabbed and left at the scene.
No.
Somebody stole her fucking baby.
Yes, she was taken right out of her mother's womb. So Homer does arrive, Homer, husband and dad, arrives home shortly after the police had arrived.
And I feel like, unlike certain cases where the spouse is always going to be your first suspect in these type of cases, when you have a baby cut out, he immediately is checked off my list.
Yep.
Like, he's not going to do that.
No.
Not saying that couldn't happen, but he certainly is moving down lower on my list of suspects.
Plus, he arrives after the police. They
Yeah.
have grandma there saying he called me, because the
Worried.
dog got out. Yep, exactly. I mean, his alibi is airtight because he was at work, but anyway.
But I'm interested in knowing who messaged him to let him know the dog was out, too. And maybe it was completely innocent, and it truly was just a neighbor messaging on Facebook.
Yep, it was just a neighbor.
Just found it weird.
That didn't have his, cell phone number, so they messaged on Facebook.
And whoever had killed her obviously had let the dog out
Yes.
to keep him from,
Yes.
biting him or attacking him, or they just him or her, or they just left the door open after they fled.
Right.
So,
Right.
okay.
So
I like to talk through this shit in my head because I'm
anxious now.
Right, exactly. Okay, so let's go over Reagan and what the police are looking at with her wounds and things like that.
Well, a fucking botched C-section.
Well, that's for sure. She had extensive defensive wounds on her arms and hands. She had 5 skull fractures, a broken nose, and more than 100 stab wounds. The medical examiner said that she was likely beaten with both ends of a claw hammer, as well as a mason jar that had pink and blue sand from her own baby's gender reveal party. Then she was repeatedly stabbed, likely, and this is gruesome, likely with the small scalpel, which was eventually found inside her neck during the autopsy.
Okay.
The coroner was unable to rule out that she had also been strangled because her throat had been so extensively cut. At some point, the killer sliced her lower abdomen open from hip to hip, removed her uterus, sliced it open, and removed both the child and the placenta. So this information is coming over the radio, right? The police are talking to one another. They're giving out this, hey, this is what happened. We have an abducted baby.
Yeah.
So while it's coming over the police radio, State Trooper Lee Shavers gets on and he reports that he conducted a traffic stop in DeKalb County, Texas for high speeds at 9:37 a.m. that same morning. Now it was 9:30 when Homer started getting those messages from the neighbor that the dog was out. So the driver's name of that was driving erratically for high speeds that Trooper Shavers pulled over, the driver's name was Taylor Parker, and she had a newborn baby in distress on her lap and an umbilical cord protruding from her pants. A placenta eventually fell out as well. She had blood on her hands, her face, legs, and feet. So the trooper and a passerby who had stopped to help noted that there was no blood on the driver's seat or on the baby, and much of the blood on Taylor seemed really dry. Despite multiple requests by Taylor to be taken to a hospital in Oklahoma where she said her doctor practiced, the trooper and EMS had her taken to one that is closest. Of course, this baby is in duress, which was McCurtain County Memorial Hospital in, Idabel, probably Idabel, Idabel, or Idabel, Texas. Okay, not where she wanted to go in Oklahoma. Farther,
I've seen this case.
Much farther away. Have you? Well, it's only 4 years old.
I think I might have watched a YouTube video of the police officers interviewing her at the hospital.
Very, very possible. Medical personnel from that hospital completed an external exam to check for, bleeding. She was refusing treatment over and over again. Okay.
Because they're going to find that she hadn't given birth.
Absolutely. And they find more than that, too. Oh, yeah. This gets twisty. So eventually, though, and they're right away, she's, refusing this exam. They're not convinced that she'd given birth at all right away. But she does eventually agree to an exam, which reveals that not only has she not given birth, but she does not have a uterus.
Oh, wow.
At all.
How old is she?
She is 27 at the time.
Oh.
We'll get to it. But no, she does not have a uterus. And, of course, an internal exam revealed neither blood in her vaginal canal or the presence of a cervix, which is sometimes removed during her hysterectomy.
Yes.
A blood test showed that she had no evidence of pregnancy hormones in her system, but she continued to insist that she had had a baby. We'll tell you right now, for the sake of getting it out there, DNA tests do later reveal that the baby that was brought in with Taylor belonged to Reagan Hancock. I know that is shocking to you all right now, but I just didn't want to I didn't want to leave out that later when we get to the trial and stuff, DNA tests prove this, okay? So the baby, Braxlyn Sage Hancock, was small. Reagan had only been 34 weeks along when Taylor had actually told doctors that she was overdue.
Really?
Yes, she was overdue to have her baby. This isn't a 34-week-old baby. I was overdue. But Reagan had been viable when she was born, but she was deprived of oxygen too long before getting to the hospital, and she suffered extensive brain damage as a result, and she was taken off from life support and declared dead at 1:22 p.m. that same day.
Oh, so the baby died too.
Yes.
Poor Homer.
Poor Homer. I know. Lost his wife and his baby girl.
And left their 3-year-old motherless.
There was enough probable cause at this point to arrest Taylor for murder and kidnapping. And they do so. And remember, this is Texas. And when you've got murder and kidnapping, you have a capital case in Texas. Do.
And I'm usually a big fan of Texas justice.
I know.
They've only steered me wrong a couple of times.
Taylor's interviews with police were recorded, and in the footage, she claimed that Reagan had started the altercation by pushing her to the ground in the garage and trying to prevent her from leaving. Though she was very sketchy on the actual timing and the details, but she says that Reagan was ultimately so injured in the altercation that she asked Taylor to remove the baby from her body on the spot in order to save her life.
Please
the baby's
save
life.
My baby. Don't call 911 though.
Nope, but cut it out of me and save my baby. Taylor claimed that she was only complying with Reagan's wishes and that Reagan was alive when she left, seemingly trying to imply that Reagan slit her own throat with the scalpel that Taylor had used to remove the child.
You left a dying woman without calling 911?
Oh, and then left.
With her infant.
And she had slit her own throat and left the scalpel inside her own throat after she had been supposedly awake and viable for this rather inhumane cesarean section that you performed on her. She never passed out from that pain. Law enforcement
is loving this confession because as awful as everything is that's occurred in this case, she is sealing her own fate.
Right. Well, in my next statement, whether it's through her own self-realization of how ridiculous this all sounds or just the investigators doing a good job by not buying into her bullshit, she does eventually get close to the truth. She tells them that she had been faking her own pregnancy for the last 10 months.
But it was all on Facebook, wasn't it?
Of course it was, yeah. And that her boyfriend, Griffin, had no idea that she wasn't really pregnant. She also finally admitted that little 3-year-old Kinley had witnessed the scene of her mother's death. So now they just have to put the pieces together to bring her to trial. And I know y'all have questions.
That trauma that 3-year-old is going to experience because she can't articulate. She's not going to be able to testify. And this is going to live with her forever. It's going to come back at bad times
in her life. I know. All those things I thought of, too, when I was writing this. You're probably wondering who the hell Taylor Parker is and how did her life derail so much that she could commit such a especially heinous act of violence and evil.
There's a special level of crazy or disturbed for a woman who fakes a pregnancy anyway, who's got herself into that deep of a lie, even to the point where she maybe believes it herself. And then all of a sudden the realization that she can't produce this baby that's supposed to be born soon.
So your next logical step is to steal one out of somebody's womb?
Again, this is not a typical response, but the whole way that she's behaved isn't. So tell me about Taylor as a kid and what happened.
Well, listen, in terms of who she was as a kid, there is the same old, I was abused.
Of course.
I didn't find a whole lot of intimate detail about her childhood. They did.
Was her uterus cut out of her by somebody else by any chance?
It was, but a medical professional.
Oh, see, that makes a difference.
Medical reasons.
And probably with anesthesia and without the intent for her to die.
In a very humane way.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will admit this. So I'm going through like the court trial stuff, and the defense attorney, of course, her defense attorney does not want the capital case on here, right? At this point, they can't deny that she committed this crime. What they're going to try to argue, Megan, is that there were mitigating circumstances that led her to these actions, okay? And so that's why she shouldn't receive the death penalty. So they do go into her childhood. But I'm going to tell you that Taylor Parker has been diagnosed by professionals as an actual DSM-5 diagnosis, pathological liar.
Wow.
So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know anything about her childhood, because we don't. Anything was collected from Taylor herself, okay, who's been diagnosed as a pathological liar.
Yeah, we have no idea.
I'm not going to do that to her parents. Maybe they were shitty. Maybe she was raised with some abuse and things like that, as we hear time and time again. But there are millions out there who were raised with this or more that don't do shit like this. So,
and again, if we have no way to verify her statements and she's a diagnosed pathological liar, then her parents might be sitting out there going, we did everything right.
Correct.
She's been lying since she came out of the womb.
Yes. So
seriously,
I do not feel that it's fair to sit here and try to tell anybody that I know anything about how she was raised. I think that we can all conclude that mental illness certainly is a factor here, right? And what do we always say? Mental illness is not your fault, but it is your responsibility. And she did not take care of her responsibility in this case. Okay. So she was a 27-year-old woman at the time of the crime. Her web of lies and deceit read like an ancestry DNA document in Nick Cannon's offspring. Okay? It was deep. Let's begin with how she met Reagan. That happened in 2019 because, and this breaks my heart, everybody, she was Reagan and Homer's wedding photographer. That's how they met. That's how Reagan knew Taylor. The two had kept in contact here and there ever since for about a year or so, because I'm going to remind you that this murder took place October 2020, but Taylor's issues began well before meeting Reagan in 2019. And also, I do want to let you guys know that she was deemed competent to stand trial, although her only diagnosis was of being a pathological liar. And I tell you this because some of this stuff seems crazier than reality TV. And so I know that there might be some speculation about her mental capacity. And everything that I found here is from testimony at the eventual trial.
Okay.
So
I'm ready.
Taylor had been married twice before, once to Tommy Way Casey and once to Hunter Parker. That's how her last name was Taylor Parker. She has 2 biological children with Tommy Way Casey, but following the birth of those children, she had a tubal ligation in 2014 and then a medically necessary hysterectomy in 2015. And Tommy Way Casey says that she was extremely upset about the 2015 medically necessary hysterectomy.
Okay.
Even though she had had 2 children of her own already.
Right.
So after Tommy Way Casey and her divorce, Hunter Parker marries her. And he says that at the time that they got married, Taylor did not tell him that she was infertile. So according to Hunter Parker, she claimed to have a variety of medical problems and even allegedly faked seizures in order to keep their relationship together when he indicated that he wanted out. Okay. So she likes to hide her crazy in plain sight.
She does. And yeah, this is super premeditated. That's what we're getting out of this.
Absolutely. 2 of Taylor's friends said that after her second marriage, she desperately wanted to have a daughter, but told them that she was unable to because she was diagnosed with uterine cancer. This was not true. She allegedly offered each friend $100,000 to act as surrogate, even though neither one of them were interested. Also, she does not have $100,000, just for the record. Okay. She also allegedly told people that she had miscarried twins and that she had lost a subsequent daughter immediately after giving birth, and that she and Hunter Parker had successfully hired a surrogate, but that Hunter had cheated on her with the woman. None of those things were true.
Right. Clearly.
Yeah. Hunter Parker said that his ex-wife also tried to convince him to get a loan to use a surrogate to conceive a biological child, and then promptly suggested that her grandmother would pay for it using cash, which would be delivered by a man named Tim Hightower.
What?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is this just an elaborate fucking...
I told you, her lies read like Nick Cannon's ancestry DNA.
I can't even keep it straight.
The dude's got a lot of offspring.
I know.
She's got a lot of lies. What can I say? he received several text messages, that is Hunter Parker, received several text messages from a person who claimed to be Tim Hightower, including a picture of a duffel bag of cash. But then Taylor tells him that Tim had gotten into an accident on the way to deliver the money. Such the luck, right? And this is the worst. And that the first responders who responded to save Tim Hightower's life had stolen the bag of money. Can you believe it?
No,
I
can't.
Good, because neither did Hunter Parker.
No.
He didn't believe it either.
Okay, so what did he do with that information?
He wants to divorce her, and she
Yeah.
starts faking seizures.
Okay.
And
Maybe he won't leave me if I'm ill.
Yes.
You're ill, honey.
You are, but it's not from seizures.
No, you're a psychopath.
You have some deeply rooted psychological issues. And also, just for the record, it was a burner phone that was texting him. There is no Tim Hightower, in case you hadn't guessed that. It was literally Taylor
because I was
from a
really,
fake phone.
I was really worried about Tim Hightower and his death.
Yes, with this duffel bag full of money and the EMS people running off.
The corrupt EMS people that left the person clearly in distress taking a bag of money.
Yes.
Like Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner.
Like there would be no actual
911 call where they would have responded.
Recording,
No, they're dirty EMS workers. They just show up at people's houses to save them. They just know that they need saved. And then they're like, ooh, wait, this one has a bag of cash. Let's let that one die.
Sorry, you get to die while we take your cash. No. So
It's impressive.
the couple separated in April 2019.
Yeah.
And within a few weeks, Taylor begins to date a man named Wade Griffin. Okay. And this is the same year that she meets Reagan and does Reagan's wedding photography.
Okay.
And the crime was committed October 2020. Those close with Wade Griffin said that the lies started immediately. Of course they did, because she's actually, but this is what she does, diagnosed pathological liar. And he really was not that into her, and that it was obvious to those that knew him that this is a booty call. This is not
I met
a
her on
relationship.
Tinder. We go out a few times, and she instantly is like in love with him.
Yes.
He's her next
Well,
person.
she's codependent. Yes.
To say the least.
Yeah. When it started,
This guy's lucky he didn't end up tied in a closet.
oh my God, I know. He does go on a bit of a roller coaster. This isn't the end for poor
Okay.
Wade here.
Wade's in the basement
Wade-
wearing a wedding ring that's too small, tied to the radiator.
Wade goes
While
on
she
a journey.
force feeds him wedding cake.
Right, yeah. Not that bad.
Jesus.
But he might have felt like that was maybe better than
Wade,
what he
you were
does
in
go
danger.
through.
Okay.
When it started to become obvious to Taylor that Wade wasn't that into her, she created what was described as an elaborate scheme to keep him in the relationship. It started with a lie that she was an heiress.
A Harris?
I almost went very phonetic on that one.
Well, that's how it's spelled.
I know, but I know better.
I
Like, give
know.
me a break.
Doesn't matter.
So she was an heiress with enough money to buy a $4.5 million walnut farm for the couple.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So this is lie number one is, by the way, I'm a millionaire and I'm going to buy us a walnut farm. I don't know, Megan. I can see you looking at me.
Why walnuts?
I don't know, and I knew you were going to ask me that.
Well, if
That's
you're
an
a baker,
unresolved answer from this case.
if you're a baker and you've gone to buy walnuts recently, they are ridiculously
Amen.
expensive.
Give me a walnut plantation farmer. I want. What's next on the? I'm just gonna window shop on Tinder, and if it says
just-
walnut farmer,
I'm out.
I'm gonna keep you.
I don't think. At what point does it register with this man or with anybody that when somebody starts to brag about things like that weirdly or misplaced, and you just really aren't seeing any evidence that this is the case, why would you believe it? Or out of sheer fucking curiosity, is
Do
he
you
like,
just stay with it?
I'm
I
gonna
told
ride
ya.
this out and see if I get me a walnut farm?
Listen, here's the thing. Wade's close family and friends are like, bro, she's playing you like a piano.
Yeah.
And he
Run away.
There might have been a part of him that was like, yeah, I know, but the sex is good and I don't plan on keeping her around.
Because
And he didn't.
crazy chicks are good in bed, I hear.
I hear that too.
Yeah.
And also, you can be good
we
in
don't
bed
hear that.
and not be crazy.
Correct. But I hear that the crazy ones where you're afraid you might die are good, I guess.
That tracks.
Some of our guy friends have told me this is why.
Mm-hmm.
When I say things like, why are you still with her? She's fucking nuts. And he's like,
well, that's why.
You know.
Because they don't have any
late night activities.
Yes, and they have no intentions of actually staying with
and you're just going to make her crazier, though. Because you aren't having real feelings about this person. You are stringing them along, really, at this point. Wait, it's not nice.
It's not. But Wade's mom was a real estate agent. And so I think that there was a part of him that's like, let's see how far she'll go with this if she's going to buy a $4.5 million walnut farm.
I'm going to hook her up with my mom as a realtor because we might as well make a piece of this profit.
Yeah, let's see what goes on.
This is epic. It's just getting better.
So that was lie number one. The second lie is that her mother had stolen Taylor's inheritance and hired a hitman who attempted to kill Wade and Taylor. So Taylor says that she eventually told people that her own private detective that she had hired had foiled the plot, and that's why her and Wade were still alive. However, I mentioned...
Like it's Scooby-Doo. They foil
take
their
off
plans.
the masks, and it's just a random white woman with lies.
With lies, I tell you.
Wade's own mom was a real estate agent, as I said. So it does not take long for lie number one, the real estate deal, to start falling through at the very end of like 2019. All right. So they're on to her.
You'd think she'd be able to very quickly find out if there were any walnut farms for sale.
Well,
anywhere.
Here's the thing.
Anywhere in the world.
I'm telling you, I can buy you a walnut farm. Your mom's starting to see through my lies. So now I'm going to tell you that my own mother has stolen my inheritance.
Oh my God.
And
I can't
hired
buy
a hitman to try
farm.
to kill us.
Right. Now my mom took our money and both of our lives are at risk.
And I've hired my own private detective. Yes. And he foiled the plot. He saved our lives. And they're now making a Netflix series about it. You'll catch it in 3 to 5 years.
Is that who she hired? Inspector Gadget.
Fake.
She watched cartoons that night and was like, this is a good idea. I can use this plot. Because she's clearly taking all of her lies and ideas from Nick at Night, man.
I agree.
I don't get it.
No, but end of 2019, it's fallen apart. Okay? They're not buying into her bullshit. So she throws the Hail Mary. She announces that she's pregnant. Okay?
Does she also announce everything else was lies? But she's just still going to let it fall apart without ever admitting it.
You know what? None of that matters now. The botched, real
estate
for hire.
deal.
Yes.
Mom's not going to have me killed now because I'm pregnant with her grandchild. Your baby, by the way.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Taylor faked urine tests to prove her pregnancy, and she reused sonogram images from her earlier pregnancies to prove that she was having a baby. So Wade's mom and Taylor's ex, Hunter Parker, tried to warn Wade Griffin and Wade's family, like his younger brother, about Taylor's lies, deceptions. And also Hunter Parker is like, dude, she is infertile. She does not have a uterus. She cannot be pregnant. But to no avail, Taylor provided friends and family with a due date of September 22nd.
Oh my God.
Wade Griffin's mother said that she assumed that Taylor would fake a miscarriage and the relationship would eventually end.
So she's like bullshit on this to begin with.
Yes.
And now she'll fake a miscarriage and it'll be over.
Yep.
But here she continues along with the lie. Did you ever call her out on it?
Interesting that you should say that. No. And the defense attorneys in the trial try to say that all of the blame is on all of the people who didn't believe Taylor's lies but didn't call her out on it. And the psychologist that gets on the stand is like, didn't matter if they did try to call her out on it. She is a diagnosed pathological liar.
They've already called her out on the other stuff and she's denied all of it and then comes up with a new lie.
She's not going to take accountability. But to use that as a defense that, you know what, this murder is actually on all of Taylor's support system, you can see what a lack of support system she has because nobody called her out on it. Nobody stopped her. No, she is psychologically not okay. It didn't matter how much they tried to call her out on it.
Or filed a mental petition or anything.
And I don't know, with a mental, would something like this get a mental petition signed? Not necessarily. Exactly.
Not if there's not imminent risk to your own personal health or to others.
At this point, she hadn't harmed anyone. She's just lying.
Yeah.
By the end of the summer, because she announces her pregnancy, says that August, 22nd is going to be her due date. In the summer of 2020, she's buying a fake belly. She's wearing a fake belly. She's faking sonograms.
Like he's not touching you?
She's posting it.
Maybe not.
She's not allowing him to see her naked.
Having a relationship.
Yep. Yeah. And so they're having their 1-year anniversary at this point in time. They're getting ready to celebrate the birth of their daughter that she is made up. Mid-September, Tommy Way Casey, her first husband that she has 2 biological children with, anonymously texts Wade Griffin multiple times over the course of several days, trying to tell him that Taylor had a hysterectomy and that those sonograms were of her other children.
So he did try.
Yes. So did Hunter Parker. I mean, it's not like Wade hadn't been told, but what the defense was saying is that no one confronted Taylor directly.
Who cares?
Why would you? These people are over dealing with her bullshit, so they're just trying to get to the people that might see reason, like Wade. So then Wade sends Taylor a screenshot of the text messages. Okay? And so now Taylor knows, like, okay, things have escalated. He might be on to me. There are other people reaching out to him, telling him about my infertility. And at this point in time, her online searches start to escalate. She gets on internet sites where pregnant women might gather, out of hospital type of natural C-section births. Okay, she's researching how do you cut a baby out of someone's belly.
She sure is.
This is what she's doing.
Emergency situation.
Yep. Birth protocols, videos of cesarean sections. This is, of course, discovered later when they confiscated her computer. But
how scary what we can see on YouTube too. Mm-hmm. Probably step-by-step instructions for cutting a baby out of a uterus.
Yeah. Yes. More than likely. I mean, because
who needs a medical degree?
Well, what if you're hiking in the woods and a baby is stuck and nobody can get to you?
We're attacked by a bear and they're laying there dying and you have to save the baby. All of these things could happen. There might be legitimate
reasons, but this was not the intention of those videos, for someone to womb raid. Okay. September 30th, workers at another clinic in Paris, Texas, said that Taylor Parker came in for a pre-scheduled sonogram and began crying, telling workers that she wanted to reschedule because her husband was in the military and had died.
What?
Yes. And her mother had canceled on her, so she didn't want to do the sonogram by herself. So now she's telling medical personnel that she's pregnant. Okay? She's making these appointments and she's then half-ass going to them and now saying, you can't do a sonogram on my belly because my husband's in the military and he died and my mother canceled on me. So they say later they saw her sitting on a bench in the parking lot. Police have since determined that she was looking up the license plates of the expectant mothers entering the clinic. And it's around this same time that she gave Reagan a baby gift and the two start texting about it.
Oh, no.
So she's sitting, the reason she was at that medical clinic is to get, to look up these license plates to get information about these pregnant women. Yeah. She was stalking them.
She is. She's finding her victim.
Yep. And remember, this whole time she's wearing a fake belly and posting on Facebook how excited she is to give birth to her daughter, by the way. On October 5th, 3 days before the murder, an intentional fire was set at Wade Griffin's house, where he and Taylor had been living, knocking out the plumbing and water. Now, this was very timely because Taylor was set to be induced the following day on October 6th. Okay? Because of course, how is she going to explain? I was due September 22nd. It's October. And I still haven't had this baby. So she had to fake a induction date. And the day before that induction date, their house catches on fire. On top of the house fire, there was also a bomb threat which detectives have since connected to her, that was called into the clinic where she was due to give birth to her fake baby.
Okay.
So now she can tell Wade, we can't be induced. The clinic is closed. Our house has burnt. Okay. We can't just have one lie.
This is a lot of so much
many lies
to keep track of.
Absolutely. But like, isn't your house burning reason enough to not go be induced? But you also have to call in a bomb threat? Or why don't you just call in the bomb threat instead of also burning the house?
Babies don't stay in just because there was a bomb threat, by the way.
No, but
when you're that late, they're gonna come out at some point, and they don't care whether there was a weather issue or there was a bomb threat.
They don't.
Or your house burned or the clinic. They don't care.
They don't. Ask my mom. My brother was born in the middle of a snowstorm. Yeah. Almost on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just happens. I had a cousin born in an elevator, as a matter of fact. So, I mean,
Jesus, your
it
family's
happens.
got to start getting to the hospital earlier. That's
I know.
all
I was
gonna
almost
say.
born in McDonald's.
That's it's they clean.
Kind of sad I wasn't, because that's a hell of a story.
I'd crawl right in the ball pit just for comfort, just for
layer,
that back labor.
Layer in the germy ball pit. It's fine.
That baby's gonna be immune to everything.
Mm-hmm. So the pressure's on. Okay, the clinic's closed. She still hasn't given birth, but she's overdue on her fake timeline, and she's got to come up with something fast. So on the morning of October 8th, she went to the area of Reagan Hancock's house and sat outside for a significant period of time. We know this because of her cell phone tower location pinging. Okay. Then she went over later that evening to actually hang out with Reagan. That was pre-set up, okay? On the day of the murder, October 9th, Wade Griffin, this is the journey Wade had to go on, okay? His house has been burnt on October 5th.
Yeah.
Okay? He is expecting the birth of his daughter. It's been rescheduled because of a bomb threat.
Clearly hasn't touched his girlfriend in months, so he's sexually frustrated.
Absolutely. He shows up, Megan, at a hog farmer's property in Oklahoma, several hours from his home, at 7:35 a.m. with a trailer full of hogs. A hog trailer. Now, the farmer is super confused because he had not ordered a trailer full of hogs.
Holy shit. She got him out of town so she could go into labor while he was gone.
Yes. As a matter of fact, this farmer had been texting with someone over the last few days about purchasing some hogs, but he decided that the person on the phone didn't know anything about proper transportation laws of livestock and backed out. It sounded fishy to him, so he was like, no, I'm not doing this. Wade Griffin, however, thought that he was going to be delivering a trailer full of bacon and becoming $6,100 richer.
Son of a bitch.
Instead, he drove several hours one way for no reason, and then he had to return home with a trailer full of raw bacon, just as it was when he left. He just wasted an entire day.
And didn't make $6,200.
He did not. He did not. So little did he know those messages were from a burner phone that Taylor had bought just days earlier. And I guess he was not concerned about missing the birth of his daughter for $6,000 because he was willing to drive hours away from his home, which worked out perfectly for Taylor.
She still hasn't had this damn baby, and obviously all you have to do is tell her not to go into labor because you have to drive 6 hours. I mean, she didn't go into labor because there was a bomb threat. So
right.
You just tell the baby to stay in.
That's right.
That's how it works with her.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me take you through the timeline of what Taylor was doing while she sent her boyfriend on a several-hour hog heist.
Stalking her victim.
According to cell phone pings, Taylor Parker left her home that morning at 5:26 a.m. There's actually, according to her, when they put the timeline together of all of her locations, her cell phone, and her computer, it does not appear as though she slept at all the night before.
Oh, you have to be very anxious when you're planning to murder somebody and cut their baby out.
Yeah, she jacked. Okay,
Yeah.
she's all hyped up on crazy, possibly some coffee. I'm not sure, but there's a lot of crazy going on.
Maybe some meds.
Maybe I don't know. Meds might have helped her. I'm not sure she's medicated.
I'm not saying they were prescribed.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I have no indication of drug use, but
Okay.
maybe I don't know.
She's naturally crazy, Megan. She doesn't need help with drugs.
I know. True. Like, she rides that high pretty well on her own. But she left that morning. They know that she left their house that morning at 5:26 a.m. And I shouldn't say their house. I don't know if they were still staying in the house she intentionally set the fire to or with a friend. Couldn't tell you. But she left where she had been at 5:26 a.m.
This feels like a made-for-TV movie. It is so crazy.
And when you get done with the movie.
And it's real.
Yeah, this is the thing. When you get done watching a movie like this, you're like, those fucking producers, none of that was believable.
Right. That's her life.
Yes.
None of this is believable.
The life she has created, the chaos that she has created.
Within this poor, harmless, helpless victim who just brought into her crazy because she joined a fucking online group for pregnant women.
No, she was her wedding photographer.
Oh, that's right.
You're getting another case
I'm getting
mixed
the
up.
other.
Yeah,
yes,
the other
sorry.
room raider case
Sorry,
we had.
I did.
Which I think was a bonus episode for Patreons.
It was, but
Yeah.
you're right. I forgot that she was the wedding, which is even scarier.
It is.
Like,
This person that captured the moments of your happiest
Yeah.
day, one of the happiest days of your life. Anyway, so she leaves at 5:26 a.m. Wade called her phone again at 6:31 a.m. and that call lasted more than 6 minutes. Then she pulled into the Easy Mart during that call, and she was captured on the store's surveillance camera putting $10 of gas in her Toyota Corolla and paying inside.
it's a murderer's car.
And it is, you know, a murderer's car, the Toyota
It's a big trunk,
Corolla.
good gas mileage.
Location data and purchase receipts show that she stopped at McDonald's next door before heading toward the Hancock's home. Why do murderers always protein up before or after a murder?
I bet you a large majority of murders have a McMuffin in their stomach. They're McMurderers.
You are having... I'll take the McMurder, please.
I'll take the McMurder muffin. And on almost every occasion, you're right. They stop at that. We've had a couple stop at a BK, but for the most part,
It's
it is all about it's
McDonald's.
Murder Donald's.
It is the murder.
Murder Donald's, however you want to say it.
The next time Matt offers to go get McDonald's breakfast, I'm going to
call
tell
it McMurder?
him, I'd like the sausage McMurder muffin, please, with cheese.
And he'll go, I don't even want to fucking know what that is or care. It is the number 1 or the number 3, Charnell.
Right. Am I going to have to text Megan to figure out what meal you really want?
I'll be like, yes. You want the one with sausage, right?
Yes.
It's a 3.
Of course I do.
It's the 3.
It's the 3. She wants a 3 with cheese.
Yes. Me too. That's my breakfast order.
Why does that not surprise me?
It's the McMurder.
Yes. All right. So we know that Taylor was near Reagan's house by 7:22 a.m. She left at 5:26, went and got herself a little gas, a little breakfast, and creeps up at 7:22 a.m. We know that Reagan got a text from Parker's number that she had actually purchased through a VoIP Google app the day before.
Okay.
All right. The reason that I'm saying it's odd because it's like Taylor Parker is trying to set it up as if she doesn't know that it's Taylor that's coming, like that there was, because she's not using her regular phone. She is using a fake number through an app and a burner phone.
Okay.
And
But
so
this is how she's communicating with her friend.
it is, but we don't know, we will never know if Reagan really knew she was communicating with Taylor and expecting Taylor or was expecting someone else, because Reagan's phone is never found. And because Taylor's is a burner phone, we never get to see the actual messages. We can see the pinging contact between these two phones, but we cannot see the actual data.
We don't know that Reagan was expecting somebody to come hang out with her. She might have just been expecting somebody to drop something off.
Yes, possible.
God, you think about things like, purchasing something offline.
Facebook Marketplace, something like that.
Just meet me here. I'll deliver it.
Yep.
Hey, I can't leave the house because I'm 9 months pregnant, 8 months pregnant.
I can't confidently say
we don't know.
She was expecting Taylor. She might have been, and Taylor was just like, oh, sorry, I lost my phone. This is my new number. But truly, Taylor was just trying to get
cover
her tracks because it's a fake app, or it's not a fake app, but it's a fake number from the app and a burner phone.
Right.
All right.
Harder to trace to her.
Yeah.
Or so she thought.
I would think that Reagan probably did expect Taylor.
They never found her phone, but they pinged it.
Yes, they were with her number. They were able to get into AT&T or Verizon.
So they knew there was
a
fake number that belonged to her, and it was pinging outside of the victim's house.
Right. Well, see, they get Taylor's phone. They're able to get Taylor's information. It's Reagan's phone that they never find. Yeah.
Oh, they have Taylor's phone.
They do. They get Taylor's phone.
And she uses burner phones.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And Reagan's is never found, huh?
She clearly took it and probably
she did.
pitched it out along the side of the road when she was
and also
stealing a baby.
Probably sent her husband weird messages. Because remember, at 8:30 a.m., Homer got messages that just didn't sound like Reagan. It sounded odd, which is why at 9:30, when he gets that Facebook message that your dog is out, he's like, I'm going to leave work and go check on her because she's not answering her phone. Yeah, she absolutely took it, shut it off after possibly sending weird messages, shut it off, and then discarded it as she's driving down the road. Yeah, and they just never found it.
Hey, babe, my phone's not working. I'm just going to shut it off. I'll see you when you get home.
Yeah, it's just odd. Yeah. I don't ever hear what the specifics of the messages are, but he described them as just not sounding like his wife. She's at 7:22 a.m. A New Boston school bus actually passed by the house at the same time that captured video showed Taylor, like when she pulled in. So, and then her car wasn't there. Then the bus passes by. Then she shows up, and she gets a text. There are text messages between 7:49 and then Reagan texts back 3 minutes later at 7:52. And the reason that this timeline of these women's text messages back and forth and the video camera capturing when she really arrived is that it helped establish a very clear timeline because Reagan was killed, according to the coroner's report, between 7:52 a.m. and 9:14 a.m. All right?
Sure.
And we know that Taylor Parker was there at that time, and this stuff shows it.
All right.
Both Taylor Parker's primary phone and her burner phone moved away from the scene of the crime around 9:14 a.m., along with Reagan's phone. It also moves. And we know that the neighbors messaged Homer Hancock at 9:30 that the dog had gotten out. She left at 9:14.
Yep.
He gets that message at 9:30.
It all makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
At least the timeline does. Nothing else makes sense.
No, not at all. It's really the only thing that does make sense.
It's true.
Police collected Taylor's phone on the day of the murders, but because Reagan's had never been recovered, they're not able to download the data to show the content of the messages, but they can see that they're in contact. So let me take you to the trial that started September 12th, 2022. So this happened October 2020. Remember, she had to go through psychological exams. She had to be deemed competent. That stuff takes time. Then there's the COVID delay. So September 12th, 2022, the trial starts. There was over 26 days of testimony. Jurors heard from more than 130 witnesses, some more than once. The prosecution made it a capital punishment case with the pairing of the kidnapping and the murder charge, also citing the heinous and premeditated nature of the murder, and because Taylor Parker showed no remorse. As I said, the defense is not trying to claim innocence, but rather the mitigating factors to be taken into consideration for this to be a prison sentence instead. Let's go over some key testimony aside from the details that I've already told you. Okay? So the Texarkana, I said that right.
That's right, Texarkana.
Police, I'm sorry for clearing my throat in the microphone. I don't usually do that. How unprofessional and uncouth of me.
It's going around. Like I told you, I've been sick all week.
My apologies.
I'm just talking, though, like I'm a sex phone operator, and you're all getting charged extra for
I
this.
like it. It's like when Phoebe was sick and singing Smelly Cat, and it was sexy.
And then she started smoking to keep the deep
Yes.
voice because she wanted sickness, and then she started licking people's stuff for germs.
Yeah, don't do that, but I am digging the sexy voice.
You're welcome.
Texarkana Texas Police Department crime scene investigator Mark Sullivan walked the jury through photographs showing different types of blood swipes, splatter, and shoe prints that were where blood was splattered everywhere, including on the walls and even on the ceiling. And they established that this was not a quick death, okay?
No way.
She fought, Reagan had fought very, very hard for the life of her and her unborn child.
And for her 3-year-old, who I'm sure she thought was in danger.
Of course, yes. There was a bloody hair print on the refrigerator below a series of ultrasound scans of baby Braxlin. Investigators found a child's bathing suit on the living room floor soaked with blood. They believed it may have been used to try to wipe something off, like the baby that was, cut out of the belly. A child's nighttime pull-up diaper soaked with urine was found on top of the pool of blood on the living room floor next to the couch. The detectives believed that it did not end up there until after the murder. So 3-year-old Reagan likely woke up, found her mother. She was in her soaked pull-up.
Pulled her pull-up
off. Yep, took it off herself. Mm-hmm. There was a large blood stain on the edge of the couch with clumps of what appeared to be Reagan's blonde hair in it, as if her head was leaning against it at some point during the attack. There was bodily fluid soaking the couch cushions where Sullivan, the detective, believes that it came from Kinley, the baby, the 3-year-old that was in the home at the time.
Oh.
They believe that she had removed her own pull-up
and
then
walked through blood.
And had came to rest on the couch and urinated, likely from trauma, I would have to think as well. A blanket on the living room floor was soaked with blood and what is believed to have been amniotic fluid. And a jar full of pink and blue sand from the couple's wedding was on the living room floor, monogrammed with an H. And this actually had blood splatter on it and was near Reagan's body. But there's also a 4-pound jar that was used to fracture her skull, and that was the one that was from her gender reveal. Mm-hmm. She was literally just beat with anything that was lying around her house and the hammer that was likely brought by Taylor herself.
And man, did she put up a fight. I mean, this is a hell of a lot of struggle.
Yep. So Sullivan testified that the pattern in the direction of blood swipes by the front door and more patterns suggesting bloody hair was smeared against it to indicate someone was pushed against a wall, sliding, to the left down towards the front door and towards the floor. Okay, there is so much blood evidence and pattern here for them to see. That's where they determined there were at least 5 different locations where an attack had taken place in this home. As I had indicated before, her body had numerous stab wounds, deep incisions, and she was cut open hip to hip with her uterus out. Her hands showed extensive defensive wounds, including bruises, scrapes, stab wounds, and cuts on her fingers and palm. One of her fingers was dislocated, and the tip of another was nearly cut off.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she's fighting. I tell you all that so that you understand not only that this wasn't a slow death, but also that she fought so very hard for life for all of them. There was also 2 distinct set of footprints throughout much of the crime scene.
Oh, you're breaking my heart.
One set was consistent with the Crocs that Taylor Parker was wearing when she was arrested.
Yeah.
And the other set was consistent with the No Boundaries brand of sandals that Taylor was actually seen wearing in the surveillance video at the Easy Mart just a few hours before the murder.
Okay, so she changed shoes. I thought you were going to tell me the other set was from the 3-year-old.
No. I don't know that I could have got that out.
I know.
I'm sure that there were her little footprints too. Of course there were, you guys. There was blood everywhere as this was described. But no, I did not come across that information. Based on the patterns that Sullivan identified in the bloody tracks, whoever was wearing the Crocs was doing a lot of walking back and forth through the blood around the blanket on the floor and around Reagan's body. And then there were watery blood stains in the kitchen and hallway sinks as if they were trying to wash something off. That would be the baby. Mm-hmm. And, of course, there's a lot of fingerprints, but crime scene investigators weren't able to get a clear enough print on any of them. This is a very, very messy scene, so that doesn't surprise me. Reagan was slashed and stabbed well over 100 times, with 39 of them to her scalp alone. She had 5 fractures to her head, and, of course, multiple slashes around her neck. So the defense had no questions for the medical examiner before she left the stand.
No, sometimes
how could you?
No, it's better just to leave it alone.
Mm-hmm. So a little bit of information I hadn't told you yet about the search of Taylor Parker's car and her home. They actually found a loaded gun in the car, but none of the weapons were used at all. And nothing that was found in the car was used. There were knives, there was guns. Those weren't used. So there was a loaded Judge revolver holstered in the passenger seat of the Toyota Corolla that she was driving when she had the lifeless newborn in her lap, of course, and the gun had 5 rounds in the chamber. There was a blood-stained blanket and pillow in the passenger seat, pajama pants, and other bloodied items. Those items were swabbed and submitted for analysis at the crime lab. There was also bloodied paperwork on the dash and noted blood on the driver's seat and console. On the passenger side, he found a paper stack from McDonald's, likely from, her morning breakfast. There was also black yoga pants and bloody underwear that were cut off from Taylor Parker that morning by the trooper and the civilian who pulled over, who thought they were helping a woman who had just given birth on the side of the road. The bikini panties, the underwear that were cut off, appeared to have some blood on them, and they had a foul odor. And the officer actually testified that it smelled like someone had defecated. Like, I actually wonder if she kind of shit herself through this whole process.
Taylor?
Yes.
Probably.
Like, they were her yoga pants and her underwear. But she had shoved the placenta in her pants to make it look like the placenta had just fallen out of her uterus that does not exist.
Right.
But crime lab analysis showed that most of the DNA testing and samples taken from all of those things belonged to Reagan. That is absolutely no surprise. She also had a diaper bag. She had newborn clothes with the tags still on them, diapers, baby blankets. All of that is establishing premeditation.
She came prepared.
She did. Yep. They did not find the black jacket that had like a leather print lining in the surveillance footage that they saw when she was at the Easy Mart that morning. They never found that. And they never found hammers, crowbars, scalpels in the car, and they didn't find Reagan's missing cell phone. She had discarded all of that stuff.
She threw all of it out, and who knows where.
Yep.
I mean, they could be along a highway in Texas someplace for all we know.
Yeah, definitely. And when they searched her home, it's as you would expect. It looks like the home of someone who is expecting a baby. She's got a crib set up. She's got a baby swing set up. She went through the elaborate lie in full force, y'all. She had everything ready for this baby that she, in her mind, was going to steal and be okay from someone else. So, of course, the jury hears all of this, right? They hear from the ex-husbands as well. They hear from the psychologist that, had diagnosed her as a pathological liars, all of those things. So as I had told you, the defense questioned why no one did more to stop Parker if so many people knew she was faking her pregnancy, because there was 130 witnesses that the jury heard from, and all of them said, we knew she was lying. We knew that this wasn't, all of the witnesses who knew Taylor Parker. Okay, agreed. Like, yes, we knew that this. So he's like, listen, so many knew she was faking her pregnancy, then she just had a lack of a support system. Her support system was broken. She's a pathological liar, but why wouldn't anybody have stopped her? Well, the prosecution is like, let me review for you in a PowerPoint presentation that's color-coded, and it's a flow chart of all of her fantastical lies, and you determine where you would insert yourself in this web of chaos and try to make sense of it.
There's just no obligation.
There's not.
You're obligated to not murder somebody, which she clearly planned. Wow, clearly planned and premeditated. Mm-hmm. You're not obligated to call somebody out on their lies. You aren't. No one had to confront Taylor and say, hey, you liar, you don't even have a uterus, like to her face.
Yeah.
People reached out and messaged her significant other.
Mm-hmm.
Did he confront her?
No, he sent her those screenshots when people did that.
Right.
And it did nothing but escalate her behavior.
Right.
All of a sudden, she's buying a belly.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't believe I'm pregnant? Now I'm wearing a belly.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. So it's like, at what point do you just like, whatever, man, live your freaking life the way you want to live your life?
Who would have thought that this crazy woman, it would have resulted in her finding a person to cut a baby out of?
Well, right. Exactly.
Like,
I
they
don't
might
think I don't think anybody
No.
goes there.
They're thinking eventually this is going to come out that she's not pregnant. And
Well,
like his mom said,
yes.
she's going to quote unquote have a
She's
miscarriage.
gonna have a miscarriage and they're
Yeah.
gonna be over.
Right.
Yes, that is what a normal, logical person would think.
That's what a normal logical liar would do.
Yeah.
Once you realize you're caught and busted,
Right.
you have a miscarriage
Yes.
of the baby that was never there to begin
you
with.
have a way out, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No.
But you don't go right to womb raider.
Correct. So the prosecution in
Innocent woman and her family.
Yes. The prosecutor instructs the jury, please give this family peace. She is no longer calling the shots. She's made every decision up to this point. It is not her choice. This was not her choice, meaning Reagan's. You are going to make the choice to send her to death row. Like, okay. The defense attorney's like, please don't do that. She's flawed as a human, but her family and her systems that she relied on failed her when so many people knew what she was doing. There was no safety net when everybody said the wheels are off. This is not to blame anybody. This is to give you a fuller picture of Taylor's system.
I don't have any.
Mm-mm.
I think that if you want a criminal justice perspective on it, the defense is doing what they can with what they have. And you can't go, when you have clear premeditation and a clear crime that was committed and really no defense to it, mitigation is the only thing that you can go to. And that was the only thing that they could find that was consistent, is that everybody knew she was an effing liar.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently none of them called it out to her face, which to me just is a really... It's all they have, but it's not a great defense. I mean, I'm sitting there rolling my eyes going, what does that have to do with the fact that she committed premeditated murder?
Yep. It doesn't.
You're blaming them because you can't say that she wouldn't have still murdered somebody if they did call her out. Mm-hmm. You're not pregnant, Taylor. Yes, the fuck I am. And then she still goes and kills somebody and brings a baby. Look, see, I was pregnant.
Well, you know what he says? They're like, everyone thinks someone somewhere will do something. It'll work itself out. What if someone had done something and changed the course of this? We'll never know.
I don't think the course of this was ever going to change.
I agree. She was too deep.
Unless she was found out earlier by her significant other.
Yeah, perhaps. But then
I mean, at what point are you just like, I guess I risk the domestic assault and walk up and take her belly off of her while she's standing there?
Yeah. The other thing is that...
Or walk in on her on the shower or something.
If it wasn't Wade Griffin, it was going to be somebody else. She kept telling friends that she wanted another daughter. She has a daughter, by the way.
Yeah.
But
she has 2 kids.
She does, but one of them's a girl. But she
Okay.
just wanted another daughter.
No, she wanted him. She wanted him. She wanted to trap him
Yes,
with a baby.
but if it wasn't Wade, it would have been
somebody else?
another dude that she would have trapped, because she can't keep these dudes. Well, think about with Hunter Barker. She started faking seizures when he wanted out.
Right.
You know. So the other thing that
this Hunter, I'm just thinking, this poor guy, he's sitting here the whole time and he is doing the right thing, and he's messaging the new boyfriend.
So was Way Casey.
Get out.
Mm-hmm.
Did Way Casey ever make any type of an attempt to get sole legal physical custody because Cray Cray over here is pretending she's pregnant?
I'm not sure.
Again, not that he necessarily knew to do that. People don't always know how to navigate these situations when they're talking about custody. But I'm just letting you guys know, if your ex-significant other who's clearly had a hysterectomy is walking around with a pregnant belly with some new guy, you can petition the court for custody of your children to keep them safe. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because I would seriously question the severity of a potential mental illness, or at least psychosis.
Definitely.
Or at least a level of pathological lying that it would be unsafe for children.
She obviously needs services, right?
Well, I don't know that she's serviceable.
Maybe
and that's up for the Texas Department of Corrections.
Right.
And the jury that sentenced her to...
Well, hold on.
I'm sitting here smiling.
The other, I'm going to tell you what the other defense was besides.
There's a second defense.
There is. They want to point out that because she sat in jail for 2 years, right? They want to point out that she's not had any disciplinary actions against her while she's been in jail, suggesting that the prosecution exaggerated the chaos and problems that she has caused behind bars, because the prosecution was like, listen, she continues to cause issues. She continues to lie and manipulate. And the defense is like, no, they're painting a chaotic picture. But truly, Megan, for me, it shows she still isn't willing to follow rules and to comply with authority in normal circumstances. Okay, for example, she refused to, she stayed and watched TV for too long, all right? She refused to leave the TV room from her time when she was supposed to, and she caused a fight over it.
Like a naughty child.
Yes, these things might seem minimal, okay, like on the grand scheme of things, but you have to understand when you're in jail, your world's very small. There are rules, and there is a determination of whether or not you are complying with those rules or not. And she continued to manipulate others. She tried to get some to, I can't even, hold on. I think I put it in my notes here somewhere. There was so much that I'm like, okay, so just over and over again, she continued to, with her lies, with her manipulation of others, she wasn't making any progress at all. And the defense wanted to use it as like, you know, she hasn't caused that many problems. These are minuscule things. Oh, sitting and watching TV too long. Oh, refusing to go and.
She was an exemplary prisoner, probably, to them.
That's what they were trying to say.
Yeah, well,
but truly, she's not.
No, she's still exhibiting the behavior. It's just contained, and they can deal with it, and they recognize when it's happening.
Yep.
At the minimum, she's showing that she would do well in prison, I guess. Maybe that's their hope, right? Don't give her the death penalty because she does well in prison.
Let me tell you a little bit about this jury.
Okay.
And I think they took their job very, very seriously. They went into deliberations at 11:13 a.m., and they came back less than 40 minutes later with a request for a whiteboard and a series of exhibits that had been entered into evidence. I mean, this was a 26-day long trial, okay? They wanted transcripts. They needed to, they did what they wanted, but they really looked at things. But by 12:30, so an hour and 20 minutes later, they came back with a verdict of guilty.
That is a short verdict for a murder.
It was. I think that the prosecution did a hell of a job, though,
Agreed.
lining everything up.
But this isn't the sentencing phase. This jury's that was the conviction, which clearly there wasn't a defense for.
Right. And they had to decide whether any mitigating factors overrode her ability to distinguish between right and wrong and provide a reason that she should not be sentenced to death so that she could get life in prison as well, or instead. They considered evidence and testimony.
Life in prison and the death penalty. After you die, you stay here in prison.
Back here. Yep.
We display you.
So it was 2 months later, November 9th, 2022, that she was sentenced to death. And, of course, that's not going to happen until all appeals have been exhausted, right? But she is the 7th woman to join the Texas death row currently. And I wanted to know how it's a little bit different from Gen Pop, so I found an interesting article about her specifically and where she went. So within 48 hours of arrival, inmates on death row receive a 148-page offender orientation handbook, and they're given a rundown of the rules governing prison life. They are kept in a restricted area, and they're not allowed to work. And the prison staff watches each new inmate's behavior for any signs that would risk security, not only to the staff, but to the other death row inmates, because we want to keep them alive until we're ready to murder them ourselves. So,
I believe you mean until we're ready to carry out their sentence.
Oh, yes, that too. You know, I feel conflicted on it.
We definitely don't want the other prisoners murdering the other prisoners.
No, we don't.
It also does nothing to show that there were mitigating circumstances for the person clearly still on death row waiting. They're like, so I was still hoping for a stay of execution, but I accidentally killed this pedo, and so I guess I have to die now.
Right. Right. Guess you were right.
Sorry,
I can't be rehabilitated.
Sorry, I'm making inappropriate jokes for those of you that are upset. This is how I deal with trauma.
So, yeah, I found that was interesting. The female inmates on death row live in a single person cell. It's about 60 square feet. They have a bunk, a combination toilet, sink, and drinking fountain.
I've seen those. Aren't they cool? Have you looked one up?
I haven't, but when I read a combination toilet, sink, and drinking fountain, I was like, boy, I really hope that you don't get all of those mixed up.
It's on the back. It's on the back. I think that it would be perfect for a tiny house, by the way.
Yeah.
Camping cabin.
There's a stool with a metal desk, solid steel doors, and a window. They're allowed out of their cell to shower and for 2 hours daily for recreation time, unless they are allowed to work, which requires special approval and super strict security. So most of them don't work.
I don't know that you'd put death row inmates to work because you're going to have to replace them in a couple of years.
Yeah. It's just not good.
They're there for a reason, for Christ's sakes.
They are. They're supervised at all times. If they do have a job, it's a job like that won't pose, a safety threat. It's things like weaving, and just all of their tools are also inventoried, right? Yeah. So if they are allowed, whatever they're allowed to use, there's a lot, you guys. They are.
Well, a lot of death row inmates are suicidal, and you can't have people killing themselves while they're in prison either.
No. I mean, that's not good either.
Well, there's liability there.
There is. All the hallways are closed off to all the other inmates when they get from point A to point B, and there's no detours allowed, of course, no matter what. And they of course are handcuffed on their ankles and on their hands, and they have 2 guards taking them to point A to point B at all times. They have a single television, and they have to vote on what to watch for 2 hours of the day that they're allowed to be out of their 60-foot cell. If they are work capable, then they can be in the day room together. If not, they have to be in that day room by themselves, and they have to go on a rest schedule.
So they stagger the 2 hours?
They do. Mm-hmm. Yep. They get a commissary of purchases up to $85 every 2 weeks, and the purchases are monitored closely. They must be used for the offender's personal use, or it's an intended use. So it's food or personal hygiene items, right, essentially. So, yeah, I just thought that was I thought that was interesting. I
liked the insight you gave us into death row.
What it's like, and
where she's currently sitting.
It is, yes. So she's with 6 other women. One other was for kind of a similar, it was a kidnapping situation as well.
That resulted in a death?
Mm-hmm. The other one, she murdered the parents to kidnap the child. And the other ones were very, very significant murderers that were there. But I liked that the prison actually spoke out and said, regardless of how short of staff we are, when it's death row, we never short ourselves the staffing because of the risk of security. I wanted to put that in there because, with staffing shortages and things like that could seem like one, because it requires to be so heavily staffed that it might seem like it's easy to kind of skirt on a couple of people. Like maybe this person doesn't need 2 people to escort them from point A to point B. They take death row very seriously. Mm-hmm.
Do we know anything about Reagan's family?
I could not find,
and
at this point in time,
that doesn't shock me.
It's only been a year and a half since the sentencing. So,
and there's a lot of appeals to happen, and I would assume they're mourning.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Out of respect for their privacy, I don't think we'll look anything up anyway, and just pray for them.
Right. She was immediately taken right from the courtroom,
of course,
over to death row.
Absolutely,
as well, and she is allowed visitors. It's only like a couple of times a week, and it's always behind glass.
Yeah,
she can never sit at a table and touch, family members or anything like that. Again, it's always going to be behind glass.
Who would be going to see her? Maybe someone takes her kids.
I'm not sure.
I feel bad for her babies.
I do too.
This woman on death row has left behind 2 children who hopefully have that really good dad taking care of them, and maybe they'll have a mother figure someday.
That's the other thing. When you're on death row, they have to heavily monitor who is allowed to come visit you, and they all have to have background checks and things like that too before they can come even visit you. So I don't know if her children being young, if they would be allowed.
That's a possibility. Or being their parents, the other parent, would you say, this is not healthy or beneficial for them?
No.
We're going to move on.
Yeah, maybe. So
Charnell.
Thank you, Alicia, for this case. I know this is a rough one, but I have a really good brain bath to leave us all. We send our condolences to Reagan's family. And as you said, all we can do now is pray for them. But I have to switch gears. It's time to leave you with a laugh in your heart. This one is near and dear to mine, and you're going to love it.
Okay, I'm ready for this. I've needed this all day.
Okay, here it's from the New York Post, so you know it's going to be good.
It's got to be legit.
Escaped pig named Albert Einstein
Oh my God.
Leads.
Is Albert Einstein friends with Kevin Bacon?
I don't know, but these pigs be escaping.
Okay.
Albert Einstein leads New Jersey police on a wild chase for a quarter of a mile. They're faster than they look. Actually, they really are.
The police?
Not sure.
The
Undetermined.
pigs? Which pig?
Undetermined. I do love this article. I'm going to read it right for you. This is not your ordinary police chase. And by the way,
Boar.
B-O-A-R, just so you know, but done. The pig named Albert Einstein escaped from a New Jersey farm and led cops on a wild chase before they were able to apprehend the pesky porker. The slippery hog got loose from a local pig farm in Deptford Township on Tuesday. This was in 2023, by the way, and evaded arrest as long as he could. Video posted online by the Deptford Township Police Department shows officers trying in vain to lasso Albert. Each time they get close, the pig squeals and runs away as an officer filming laughs.
He was hamming it up.
We're all friends here, the cop tries to tell the animal. The video doesn't show the whole thing, but we had to chase the pig for a quarter of a mile. They're faster than they look, said Detective Sergeant Bob Jones.
Oh, Bob.
He got pretty far for what it was. I don't know where he was going to go. Well, he doesn't know either, but he didn't want to go to jail. I'll tell you that.
Why would the pig go to jail? Or didn't want to go to the butcher.
He didn't. The market. That is what he went. He was trying to go wee all the way home.
That's
right.
What
he was
Albert
doing.
Einstein was
Albert
no dummy.
Einstein. The 4-year-old pig was captured after 30 minutes. Cops chasing a pig is never not funny, Jones joked to the outlet.
Agreed.
So true.
Agreed.
He wasn't listening. He didn't listen to our commands at all. Everything we learned in
Resisting and obstructing.
He was.
Charge him. Book him.
Everything we learned in the academy went right out the window, he said. Once we got a leash on it, he kind of calmed down and the scene became secure. Police said eventually the owner came by to retrieve the pig, which means they didn't take the pig to the farm. They booked him.
They did.
They took him to the police.
Or stayed on scene with him
Maybe.
in his little harness waiting for the owner. Like, we are done trying to move this pig.
I just wish that it was back at the police station and the pig just looks over at the next guy like, what are you in for?
What you in for?
Uh-huh.
I love that.
Albert Einstein. And, I don't think they are taking him to the butcher
cute.
if they're willing to name it, and it's 4 years old. So that's
That's
well
true.
past the time to
He was a pet. He was a show pig.
Mm-hmm. He was a pet pig.
He was saved for 4-H, and now he gets to be
became a family pet.
and a felon.
And, yes, aiding and fleeing. Fleeing
and eluding.
That's what I'm looking
Fleeing
for.
and eluding.
Yes.
That's right.
Oh, yeah. Well, hopefully you enjoyed that brain bath. And we hope that you keep it curious.
And keep listening.
Till next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.